since we're all going through a lot, not just on a personal level, but also on a collective level, I found that this topic would be of most use at this time, since the astral realms, when we are sleeping, dreaming, or exploring stuff, is becoming very crowded, and there are some very weird stuff that are happening. Like, I think we're in the last phase of the cleansing process, or we're at the precipice of something really big happening, and some forces and some beings don't want this to happen, so they're doing their best to cause as much havoc and chaos as they can during the night. And when we are sleeping, when we are trying to travel, do our work, be ourselves, and learn new things, they're trying to like interfere with it as much as possible. Also, they're trying to like compromise our energies, our way of life, like how we evolve. They don't want us to evolve, basically. So they're doing their best to compromise that process. And I wanted to talk about this, what you can do to prevent this from happening. What kind of precautions can you make to, to prevent it? Or if this is happening, because I think most of us are experiencing this. Like, what can you do to transition out of it? Because you have to do a lot of inner work on yourself to not be as susceptible to this thing as you would be otherwise. And basically that's like the key point here, is to energetically move out of that plane, that from that playing field that they reside in, and to move past it so they cannot touch you, basically. And that's what I want to talk about. Also, if you have questions, then please write them down, share your thoughts, questions, feelings, emotions, your perspective on the thing, because we're all going through this thing right now. Like, this has been like a very major component of all people who are awakened or are in the spiritual community. We all experienced to a certain point in our lives psychic attacks, like parasitic intrusions and attachments, and altogether some nasty energies from the lower astral that are coming in that don't want you to surpass them, to evolve further, and basically they want to do their best to keep you where you were, safe and in a controllable state. So thank you everyone for joining us. Hello Audrey, higher vibrations. Jan, thank you for joining us. Greetings from Transylvania, and hello Kara, thank you for being here. So hi everyone, excited about this topic. Yeah, we just had a chat about that yesterday. Our whole blessings. I'm definitely experiencing this for a few weeks intensely. Yeah, like in the past, especially in the past few days or past few weeks, it's kind of been more intense. Like, this is also like a good sign that we're doing some pretty good progress on cleaning house, and the beings that are being cleaned out don't really want that, so they're doing everything that they can to even overstep their boundaries, what they are allowed to do basically in this playing field. They're also like overstepping the boundaries of what is acceptable by divine and cosmic law, to like prevent this whole expelling process that is in the process right now. Venusian, hello, good morning from San Diego. Greetings from Transylvania. Okay. Like I want to talk about also that while you are here on planet Earth, there are specific guidelines that you have to follow. You have the prime directive of non-interference in your free will. So even the dark beings have to get you to a certain point that you consciously or unconsciously agreed to their processes or their proposals. Then that's like going all over the place, like especially in our culture, that you're like being tricked into believing specific stuffs, or you're like conditioned from day one to believe certain things and to be more exposed in an unconscious way to their control and parasitic infestations. And this is why it is so important to know yourself, like what is your energy and what is coming from outside or another source. Or maybe you may also experiencing intrusions to a certain extent, and this is happening because you're like exposing yourself in a conscious or unconscious way. But most of the time it's unconscious basically. But recently I've been like experiencing things that they are like overstepping their boundaries, like they're not allowed to interfere or like yeah, to break the rules of free will. If you don't want to interact with them or you like want to repel them and they still do it, that's kind of like breaking the law. You're breaking cosmic law then. And I feel like that's kind of happening to a certain extent right now, like they are overstepping their boundaries. That's kind of what I found out and experienced firsthand too. And yeah, like I want to talk about how to like overcome that and how you can move out of that field so you won't experience it, because it's not a fun place to be. So Audrey, my nightmares are definitely getting more intense lately. Higher vibrations come with all the extra ascension symptoms, and a lot of newly awakening souls need this guidance right now. Thank you for this service. Thank you. By the way, the ascension symptoms and this parasite stuff and everything are not things to be afraid of. We are very powerful and empowered. Yeah, like that's the whole point, that this is like a challenge that we have to like overcome, and a challenge that we have to meet and transform it basically, because it's here to challenge us and push us out of our comfort zone, basically to grow. Basically, that is why we are here to experiment also, but to experience great limitation, great challenges that like pushes us to grow, to evolve in new directions, in order to overcome this whole process of illusions, lies, and distortions. So Venusian, there are fragments of ourselves that vibrate in resonance with them. That's why they are getting away with breaking cosmic law. Yeah, and there are like a lot of, I wouldn't call them like loopholes, but that you can kind of work around these things to a certain extent, of this you agreeing to things and not agreeing to things. Hello Nepti, thank you for joining. And basically, yeah, like you have the contracts also in your 3D world. Like you have the general contract and you have like the small print at the back that you don't really read or don't really see at first, and you sign it and you agree to specific stuff that you weren't even aware of, but you already agreed to it. But also like there's an aspect to this whole thing that I bet most of you know, that like these powerful people that are like very rich are like publishing books or like giving speeches in which through which they're stating their intentions and what they are going to do. They're publicly pushing out that information, all their agenda, what they're going to do, and people don't care about it. They turn a blind eye and say that that's crazy or it's nonsense. But they have revealed what they want to do, and you chose to ignore it. That's basically like agreeing to it, like, okay, like I'm not going to do anything, please do continue. And that's also kind of what's happening on the astral realm too. Like when like nefarious beings come in to your field or in your surroundings, they don't like push you at once or anything. They, yeah, like they only like trickle a little bit of their energy and their influence and see how you react. Though you know that it's the same tactic with everything from the dark ones and these distorted people. Like they push you with a bit of step, then you see that you don't react. They say that it's okay with you, they don't do anything, then we'll step again and again, and they're just doing this like subtle shifts and like push you more and more and more and more with each like, you don't even notice it if you're not aware that they are pushing you, and they are like, you're like letting them gain ground on your own personal field basically. You're letting them in. It's just like someone wants to break into your house and you like want to stop it, but you like let the 1 foot of the burglar or the intruder in, then you basically have the whole being in basically, because they stopped you from closing the door and they can push themselves in. Yeah, and that's kind of how they sneak into our personal lives to a certain extent. So Alison, thank you for joining us. Patricia, I'm going to show your comments. It's very abstract, thank you. I've noticed if I keep my vibration really high, Nothing lower comes into my reality. It's quite peaceful. Yeah, and that's like the point, like that's the best protection to cleanse yourself, to clear out your field, your home, be very high vibrational, be healed and holistic, and basically they can come in, they can find anything that they can grab on to you because they're not necessarily creating problems or like deficiencies in our lives or in our being, but each and every one of us has their like Achilles heel or our disadvantageous parts, like yeah, like we all have our things that offend us or like are able to push our buttons, and they don't create that, but each and every one of us has their advantage and disadvantage, and they come in and strengthen our disadvantages, like our old wounds, our irritations, all the influences in our lives that we don't like. They like strengthen that feeling of agitation, that everything, that not all is well, and you become more and more frustrated and angry. And basically, that's how they drain your energy because that's what they can draw upon on that state of fear, basically. Like, that's the best place to be for them if they want to harvest your energy because that's like the most powerless state you can be in because you can't really do anything of higher vibration if you're in a state of fear, and that's pretty much what they're aiming towards. So Venusian, I woke up to a black cloud over my bed because it kept asking me to agree and I kept saying no. And I got upset and that emotion made me wake up. And I was like, wow, in my sleep. Yeah, like they try, just as I said, they're trying to sneak in through the front door or usually through the back door, usually, to agree and want to make you to agree to certain stuff that doesn't serve you in the most beneficial way. And yeah, like they can absolutely come in through drains because in that state you're much more open and susceptible to stuff. Just like when you're hypnotized, that's where TV comes in. You know, when you're like watching TV after 2 or 3 minutes, you're going down to alpha, to a trance state, and in that dazed trance state, you're much more susceptible to conditioning. And that's pretty much what's happening also during your sleep. You're like letting your guard down, and you're, yeah, like for me, I feel like much more vulnerable and exposed when I'm in bed and trying to sleep and rest in my own little home, basically. And that's when they try to get you, basically, because that's when you're much more susceptible and open to these stuff. So higher vibrations, though calling in higher realms for assistance is the best idea. When I'm barely awake, waking up, my first thought is always love armor. If I'm awakened up, I remember to call in everyone. Yup, and Archangel Michael is our best friend in this situation and in general, while we are here in these very conflicting plane of existence right now on Mother Earth. Hello, Rebecca. Sending love from England. Much love to you from Transylvania. Okay. And Rebecca, let's see, Wiki can be difficult when trying to work with work, college, or lesser awareness. Yes. Thank you, Guardian. I'm listening, but driving. Be careful, Marie. Okay. So, Audrey, any tips on how to protect yourself in dream state? I always freak out and they chase me. Yep. Yeah, like I had that too for quite some time. Yeah, like my safeguard for all that stuff is like, yeah, like high vibrations just posted it in. There's a mantra for it, the Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Sabaoth, or Sebaoth, it depends how you want to pronounce it. It's like a mantra that like connects, yeah, he just posted it in. You can copy paste it out from the chat box. You can, that's like the mantra that connects you directly to the higher realms. Because if you're in that dazed situation and you're not, you're unable to focus clearly, then it's like super difficult. Like even for me to make that direct connection up to the higher realms. And like this, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth mantra, I feel like repeated more and more, this like dissolves all that illusion, that oppression, that heaviness that is trying to like press you down and keep you like chained. I think that would be like the most appropriate way to say it, like, and sleep paralysis. Some of you, I bet, experienced that to a certain point. And this mantra, the Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth, this like breaks it completely, it dissolves it, and it calls in the higher realms basically. And the cavalry comes in and dissolves the entire experience. Like the best way to make, you should make it part of your own being, like in a sense you repeat it so much when you're like awake or during your meditation that your subconscious is like it's running in your subconscious unwillingly, like it's like a mantra that is like constantly running somewhere in your mind. And when it is most needed, I found it through experience that it comes up unexpectedly. And it's like I know, like when your computer is like receiving a hack, or it's someone's trying to infest it with a virus from out of nowhere, like all the white blood cells, the antivirus just kicks in and it just repels that intrusion. And like I find it that that's like the best way to like dissolve that, especially sleep paralysis and these oppressive energies when you're sleeping. So higher vibrations. So as guardian of Orion's, image fuzzy for everyone else. It looks like the matrix pixels. Like I hope I have signal. Like I have signal here, so it should be alright on my end. Okay, Rebecca. Fear feeds the non-organic beings. Always live in love. Love is the highest frequency. Yes, like all these artificial constructs, these parasite beings, they don't like that frequency. Like when you're like very high vibrational, you have this divine connection to your higher self and you're like emanating this energy, like they don't want to come close to you because that's like poison for them. They like cannot tolerate that. Yeah, like I always get that image where I bet many of you have seen Harry Potter. You have in the first episode, like I think like Voldemort like possessed one of the professors, and like at the end of the episode, like they want to like get the Philosopher's Stone from Harry, and like Harry touches the professor and like it burns him, and like it's something very similar to that. Like your mere being and your mere vibration, uh, like dissolves them, it destroys them to a certain extent. Okay, high vibrations, TV programming. Yeah, like that's also a great way to set your mind to a certain state of being, so you're more susceptible to these attacks. Yeah, like also you have all these horror movies, those thrillers, and all those BS TV programs that kind of consciously or subconsciously like implant these ideas into your mind that all of these weird stuff in the night are like very scary and you should be afraid, and there's some weird stuff going on. And yeah, like that's also like a form of conditioning, and I also had to work through that for quite a few years to get rid of it, because through my childhood and my teens I watched a lot of like horror movies and alien abduction horror movies and these stuff, and when these things are like actually happening to a certain extent to you, then it's like really freaking scary, because you have all that preconditioning before it actually happens to you. And when you like break down those conditionings, then you find out, oh, like it's not that bad really, and you like actually can do something about it. You're not defenseless at all. And that's where Rebecca, I love Archangel Michael. Yes, like absolutely, I like Archangel Michael embodying that electric blue energy and calling him in to protect you before you go to bed, and also during the night if something's happening. Yeah, like the archangels are like the best form of defense, but also they come in and remove any regressive beings. So if you ask them like, okay, like please remove everyone that is not of high vibration, every self-serving forces, I want them gone, and they will come in and take them. Just as when you like you have the police like catch a criminal and they put them in the police car or something similar and they take them away. Okay, so Allison, I always ask for protection during my sleep state before I go to bed. Yep, like that's the best thing ever, and especially now, like that's a must. So, Vicky, Lord Michael in front, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael above and below. Yes, that's perfect. Yes, the protection before going to bed too. They're like the special ops team. My doctor uses it all of the time. It's so cool when they flood in. Yeah. Cat, oh, water child. Cats protect against entities and spirits as well. Like, I don't know how much protection they provide, but they can like definitely sense them and see them. And sometimes it can be very creepy, in my humble opinion. Although I haven't had that for quite a long time. So, Kinga Jessica, hello, greetings. Even when I feel peaceful before bedtime and ask for protection, I still often experience bad dreams or spiritual attack. Yes, I'm not really afraid, but it's just draining. Why could that happen? Well, that's a great question that I don't really have a perfect answer to. Like, we're in such a chaotic time right now, and all of these beings, I think, that they are like doing their best to sabotage us as best as they can at all times or whenever they have the opportunity to do so. So yeah, like always, you can find something or some kind of weakness in us that we haven't really worked through. Like for me, it was my root chakra, and that's how they came in recently. They did something from my root chakra because yeah, like that was always my weak point, basically, in my opinion. And yeah, like they exploited that weak spot of mine to come in and do an intrusion. So yeah, like work on yourself the best you can. Be cleansed and high vibrational as you can, and it shouldn't be that difficult to overcome it. Okay. High vibrations, exactly. We are such powerful beings. I mean, these lower energies are terrified of all everyone realizing how powerful we all are. Yes, exactly. This existence has been all classical conditioning. Yeah, like that's basically why they want to keep us in that lower state of being, in the state of fear, because if like we come out of it and like realize what we can do, then it's basically game over for them. Like you have power over them, you can banish them if you want to. Yeah, and they don't want that. They are the ones that want to control and exploit your weaknesses and basically feed upon us, feed on our energy because they're like they're not nourished by source as I see it, and they have to take that source energy from someone who has it basically. That's why they have to parasitically dominate other beings to drain them. And that's also like a very empowering thing when you think about it. They're parasites and they need you to survive. And if they don't have you, you expel them. They're unable to survive on their own. Because, yeah, like they're not, I wouldn't say like they're not worthy of survival, but they put themselves in this very bad situation that it's, I don't know, like some I think won't even be able to come out of it. Like beings that were like normal beings that as we are normal souls and they like agree to specific conditions and contracts and like got stuck in this karmic loop, they become like super distorted and like forgot who they truly are, and they were like trapped in this very dark state, and they became basically like the parasites, those artificial intelligence. And I think those beings can come out of that state if they want to, because they also can work through their own crap as we do right now. But yeah, like the original ones, there are those artificial intelligence beings. I think like they're going to be like undone if they don't have anyone to feed upon, or they're like expelled from this playing field. But we will have to see what happens. The information that I'm getting is that the higher realms and the higher beings are coming in and holding everyone accountable for what they have done. not just on our planes, but on the higher planes, like the lower astral. True, like beings are being like rounded up or something similar. Like that's a very human concept, but they are being like gathered because they're unable to hide anymore because the light that is coming in is like exposing them, so they don't really have anywhere, any crevices or caves or anything they can hide in anymore, because like everything is being exposed in the light, and they like have to come forward because there isn't anywhere they can go. Like the whole planet, not just America, but the whole planet is in like in this blockade state, like it's locked down, so no one can come in and no one can escape. So you're going to be like, yeah, like you're going to be held accountable for what you have done, basically, for what you have created and what you have participated in. And that's kind of why I think they're so agitated and like stepping over the laws, basically doing these reckless things because there's nowhere else to go, basically, and they are just perpetuating and doing more of the only thing that they know how to do, basically. So, Jocelyn, the mantra has definitely helped. Thank you for sharing. I sing as well. Some songs I grew up hearing from my grandmother. It calms me down and helps me return peace to my surroundings. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah, like also singing changes and shifts your vibration. So basically, same thing. Yeah, like again, the mantra is Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth. Okay, so Audrey, I was a huge horror fan. I cannot handle it anymore. Yep, same here. Only watching Stephen King sometimes. He had unbelievable experiences. That is why he's an amazing writer. Yeah, like I don't know that much about him, but I bet he got those weird stuff from somewhere. So yeah. Also like, uh, yeah, like they did a movie out of it. The book It, you know, with that creepy clown, that's like a perfect representation of an energetic parasite, of this um, artificial intelligence that's like embodying your worst fears and feeding upon you. And that's like also like when the children defeat the clown, that dark being, like it dissolves its appearance, that clown persona, because that's not their real form, and becomes like a dark spider is like a very good analogy for it, in my opinion. And also like when these dark beings come in, they can like, yeah, like they're basically like the Pokemon. They are going to like embody your worst fears or like bring it up to 111, but that's basically not their real form. That's not how they really are. Most of them are like this black cloud or like this dark mist, or some of them appear like this black tar-like substance. I bet some of you have heard of that or also seen it. And that's, I think that's basically their true form. When you expose them, they can take that on and then you can banish them. So, okay, Audrey, yes. Sending love to all beautiful souls here and grateful for everyone. Thank you, Rebecca. If you want a pet elephant, get it when it's a baby and tie a rope around its ankle. As the elephant grows up, it is much more powerful than the flimsy string, but it was taught fighting wouldn't work. Yeah, that's a very cruel thing, but it's very real, even for us. Okay, so using certain crystals can also repel bad energies. Salt also. Yeah, like salt neutralizes negative stuff and also absorbs it, but with the really big bad ones, they don't really care about crystals and smoke, in my experience. Okay. Higher vibration. It's so creepy to see Guardian look like he's in the Matrix. Well, yeah. Okay. It's fitting as well. All awaken to our true reality. Okay. So high vibrations, all of us starseeds tend to have better access to our higher chakras and not so much our lower three chakras. Yep, this is why they have been able to find access through us there. Yeah, like I also heard of this and also definitely experienced this thing like all through my life. Like I always had challenges with these lower aspects of my being, of this like survival, this sexual stuff, and I know like all these, I wouldn't call it, but they're like more basic stuff that like go back to our more instinctual, our animalistic aspect, our lower self, basically. This was always like a challenge for me. Like I managed to ground more of it and come into being more holistic, but it's a process. So yeah, and basically yeah, my root chakra was definitely like the weak point in the past few months, and they've exploited it. Not very cool. Allison, you can also set an intention for what you would like to experience during sleep. Yes, that may be helpful along with asking for protection. Yeah, like you can create the contract, take like a piece of paper and a pen, take it, and like write a contract, like terms and conditions for the further experiences that you're going to have, what you can experience, what is allowed to be experienced, and what you don't want to experience during your nighttime. And yeah, like that's pretty much solved for me all this negative aspect of ET visitation and abduction scenarios. Like after I have stated clearly like what I want and what I don't want in my life, like all of those negative experiences like stopped like one day to another, and it hasn't come back and it hasn't come back at all. Okay, so Allison, you can also set an intention. I have just read that. Okay, so water child. I have a black cat who usually sleeps beside me at night. Sometimes when something tries to attack me in my sleep, I see the cat chase the entity away in my dream. At least in my experience, that helps. Yeah, like I also had that one time, but I think those are like the lower beings. Those are like the minions. And I also had like a very freaky experience. Like I don't remember anything, but at a certain point I wore for protection. I had like this big obsidian, black obsidian pendant. It was pretty thick, and it was like this big, and I always had it with me, and I slept with it. And one morning I woke up, and a piece of obsidian was like broken in two, completely. And yeah, and someone told me like the stone probably did its best to protect me from something during the night. God knows what it was, but I didn't remember anything from that. Okay. Yes. So Michael, hello Michael. Thank you for sharing your gifts. You are so healing. It's a wild global ride currently. Yup. Okay. Yeah, like high vibrations, same here. I used to watch horror films all of the time. I haven't watched a scary movie in so many years. Yep, same here. Like after I had my spiritual awakening, it kind of didn't had any more sense, and I just kind of stopped. Okay, so Rebecca, I have a great cat called Ralph. He's a Norwegian forest cat. I need to get a black cat too. Okay, good luck with that. Okay, so if anyone has a question. So Rebecca, cats are amazing. The Egyptians worshipped them. Yeah, and they were also in other cultures too, as far as I know. They are very independent and psychic creatures. Okay, so Nepti, the witch. I used to protect my home with a little spell that goes protection, protection. Nothing enters without invitation. That's really good. I put all my intention in it and ask help from higher spheres. Yeah, like that's pretty damn good. Yeah, like nothing can enter without invitation. But yeah, like that's gonna be like also a tricky thing, a tricky condition. Like I also found it through experience. Like there are like certain beings if you just think of them, or just maybe like an image of your in your mind comes in of them, it's basically they take it like as an invitation. You're sending them an invitation to come in, or something similar. Like I experienced that a few times, and it's a very difficult thing for me to control, sadly. Like, to maybe sometimes unwillingly your mind wanders to a specific thing, maybe on some ET groups or some beings that you didn't had a very pleasant experience with, like maybe in those conditions, like your mind just wanders there a bit, and they like come in because you sent out basically an invitation, kind of, or that's kind of how they take it in my experience. So yeah, like that can be also like a very tricky thing, especially like I had like some kind of activation like a year ago when my extrasensory stuff like hypercharged, and I was like sending signals out all the time, and all of these beings were coming into the house, and I had very much difficulty controlling the whole situation. So be very careful with that too, because yeah, like sometimes they come in because we invite them to come in, like not necessarily the way we would imagine it, like okay, like I want you and you here, or come in because I don't know, like I want to have a chat with you or something. Just maybe like it's enough to think of them, or just let that image of them, or that trickle of energy of them like come into your mind, and you just send out that signal to them and they come in. And that's like a very tricky situation to overcome. Like I'm also having difficulty with that, but that can be also like a possibility that you can experience. So Rebecca, early healthily spend time in nature protection. Protect your thoughts and always remain positive. Yeah, and also go to nature and grounding. When you're like bare feet on the soil or underneath a tree, you're like discharging all that built up excess negative flow in your own being, because yeah, like also like EMF, electromagnetic radiation, all this negativity from other people and your own stuff that you're working through are like swirling in your body, basically energetically. And if you don't discharge it or transmute it, it just builds up even more and more. And that's like a pretty good feeding ground for certain beings to come in. And if you go out in nature and you'll like sit under a tree, be bare feet, and basically you're like letting all that excess energy down into the ground, and you let it dissolve it, just as like salt absorbs negative energy and like neutralizes it. It has kind of the same effect. So it doesn't build up anymore in your energetic field. So Michael, I recently went no contact from my narcissistic family and organizations for work. How can I protect myself from the psychic attacks? Do any of you ever experience this? Yeah, like I think to a certain extent we experience it all the time almost, especially right now. Yeah, like do this grounding the more you can, what I've just explained, and asking for Archangel Michael's help to hold space for you, to protect you, and to create this contract on what you want and what you don't want to experience in your life, basically. Yeah, and do a lot of clearing on yourself, because like the more you clean yourself and the more you move out of that low vibrational state of being, the less effect they will have on you. So like that's like the bestest and surest way of getting out of that situation is like energetically like moving beyond it, so it's unable to touch you, basically. Like that's the best protection ever. But right now even that is like I wouldn't say like bombarded, but even that is like challenged, because like everyone is like amping up their game and trying to cause as much fear and chaos in the collective as possible. And since we are here, we're absorbing that stuff from the collective too, from the collective as well to a certain extent. Like if you're doing shielding, not as much, but you're still exposed to it. We're in that we're surrounded by it, so to a certain extent we are affected a bit by it. That's why we have to do like constant maintenance on ourselves. So higher vibrations, care to share your opinion on energy report of the week? I'm getting some exciting sensations like there is something to know. What type of energy report do you mean? Like I should give an energy report, or you're referring to someone else's energy report, higher vibrations? So greetings. I just realized what I am. I take everything in my life very peaceful, and I don't usually. Yeah, like I'm also very grateful when I have a dreamless night when I just sleep through. Very rare these days. Okay, Michael Tucker, you all answered the question before I wrote it. That's beautiful. Okay. So let's go further down. Thank you, Michael. This is from Nepti. I will change it a bit too. Without my spoken invitation, after what the Guardian just by visualizing is powerful. Yeah, and just think of it like these other dimensional beings also in the lower astral, they don't speak like these higher beings, ETs, they don't have this verbal language. Like some of them do or understand it, know how we function and why we use it. But they don't function that way. They communicate by thought, by intention, sending images, impressions, sending information. And by you like formulating these thoughts in your mind, you're sending signals. You're sending these signals out to all directions. And they're receiving that invitation basically, because that's kind of how they communicate as well. Like also when you have contact with higher dimensional ETs, some of them can like adapt and maybe you can have kind of a conversation with them, but the more higher vibrationals are kind of beyond that, and when you communicate with them, they basically share like information blocks with you. You're like receiving downloads, like information packages into your mind that gradually like unpacks itself, and you kind of understand more and more and more of what they were trying to convey to you. So yeah, like our thoughts and the images in our minds have their intent too. They can also have an impact on what we experience. Like basically anything and everything that we do like sends out a signal that is to our surroundings. So Audrey, toxic family and workplace can be tricky. Yes, I meditate before work to raise my vibration and protect myself with crystals. Yeah, like I have the luxury of at least skipping the workplace parasites. So like I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, like also do there also before sleep, but also before you're going to work, like do your psychic protection, set an intent. And yeah, like there are certain energetic tools that you can use, like also crystals. You can use like orgonite, it's very good for transforming negative energies. Like I have this sleeping pod, like this is made of black shungite basically. It's an orgonite that transforms negative energies, but it's basically for its primary purpose is transforming electromagnetic radiation. I also have a pendant of it, and I also have a pyramid in the or no, I have a pyramid in my room, and the whole house is gridded by orgonite pyramids, and it really helps. Like there's a subtle difference, but at least like you're like blocking out some very basic interfering energies. Like you don't need to experience those at least. Allison, I say only those of the highest light and that are here for my highest good are welcome. Yes, this is a very good way of phrasing it, in my opinion. That's also kind of what I do. Like, only those can come in that have my highest good or of the highest and purest vibration. Okay, uh, power of words. So, Kara, Garden, I've received one of your signals like 10 years ago. Wow. It was a heartbeat. Does it sound familiar? I'm not certain, but that's very awesome. Thank you. So, Josley, any recommendations on how to protect yourself from attacks and how the lower astrals using plant medicine? I know it can open you up to good things, but I assume also that bad things and false revelations. Yeah, like using plant like saging your house. The smoke of sage is a very good has a very good cleansing energy to it. That's all I use basically. But I cleanse the house with sound bowls now because my home won't stink of smoke for 2 days after that at least. Yeah, and also like you said that there are certain yeah, like there are certain substances that can like expose you to psychic attacks. Like there are certain consciousness altering substances, especially like medication that like numb down your mind. Also alcohol, like basically everything that numbs down your mind is altering your brain chemistry that like makes you more susceptible to those influences because the less and less you're in the driving seat and being in control of your own self or your own thoughts or your own body, so forth, then yeah, like the more you're inviting in other influences. Yeah, like if you don't take control of your own life, and this is yeah, like this is true not just for parasites or this psychic influencing, but in general also with people. If you don't take control of your own life, then someone else or something will come in that will make the decisions for you and control you the way they want you to be. So this is why it's so important to be self-empowered and to clean your body. So yeah, like expose yourself the less as possible to like consciousness altering substances that like basically numb down your mind. Because like you're pretty much into a similar state when you're like in that dazed dream state, although that's a natural way you can wake up from that. But if you're under the effect of a specific substance, you can't just wake up from it because the chemistry of your body has already been altered, and your body first needs to break down that substance and vacate it from your system before you can come to more clarity and more focus. And while your body's processing and trying to awaken itself, you're like an open book and being exposed to all types of influences, especially if you're like a very low place in your life, if you're like depressed or like having anxiety attacks, and plus you're like numbing down your mind, like you're even more exposed to those influences that way. So water child, Master Shamanite, I'm not sure if I read that correctly, is a great crystal for psychic protection as well. Yeah, like I haven't heard that. I use shungite right now. I really like it. Okay. So higher vibration, it's difficult to protect yourself right now doing into especially in populated places. The collective are so panicked and excited and nervous. It's so draining. Yeah, like especially if you live like in an apartment complex, you're like surrounded by other families. We also have like a family above us, below us, and on all sides. And yeah, like their energies are like coming through, like the concrete walls are not stopping that. And we are like basically in each other's fields. And it's not enough to have our own stuff to process and our own family dynamic to come over and to make it work, but we're also receiving the dramas of other people too at the same time. Sometimes I use plant medicine, sage, to house before ceremonies, open sacred spaces, invite Archangel Michael, listing mantras. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, like if you said that I use plant-based medicine, yeah, like that's the best in my opinion because they don't have these draining and negative side effects. I mean, they can have side effects too if you like overdose or you use them more than you should, but even then they're like super mild. So you're not going to go into shock or have a seizure or heart attack if just as you would take like, I think it's like some kind of, not antidepressant, some, I know that we use some kind of anti-inflammatory something, especially if you're like maybe you have like not a cough, if you're ill or you're having some kind of infection in your body, then it's like a very basic thing that people take. I think it's, yeah, like some kind of antibiotic. I don't know what's the name of it. And yeah, like I just read the side effects list. Like it's like ludicrous. Like you have this huge brochure of information about the medication, and on top it's like stating like it's good for this and that, and that's like this small of a paragraph, and then come the side effects, and there's like a vocabulary, like a huge list of side effects that it can have. And among the side effects are like you can have a seizure, you can have back pains, you can have like a heart attack or some kind of epileptic stroke or something similar. I was like, okay, like I'm not going to put that in my body, that's for sure. But yeah, like the downside to the plant medicine is basically that it has a more subtle effect, so they won't act as quickly. They're very much strong in the long run, or they because they have a more gradual effect, so they don't shock your body at once. But sometimes you need that quick resolution. That's like I don't know who said it. Like the medics here in our civilization basically are lifesavers, but they are not healers. Like especially if you have like an accident or you have to have some kind of emergency surgery or something, like we're really good at that, but we're not good at healing stuff in the body. Like we're really not grown up to like going deep and cleaning out stuff, like because everything comes from our emotional state of being, from our karma, from the stuff we're going through. And what I don't really like in our modern day medicine is like they look at us like very analytically, like on a surface level. Like if you have this symptom, I'm going to give you this and the symptom will subside. Like, okay, but what is causing that symptom in the first place? Like, shouldn't we like fix that? And then I wouldn't have to take all that medication. But yeah, that's a subject for another time. So, higher vibrations. I was referring to you, I was just curious. It feels very hopeful. It's fun to know there's a good reason for all this struggle. Sometimes I can forget why I am doing this. Yeah, like it's also very tiring. Yeah, like I just did a recording for the new moon. I think it's going to be published on Friday, so that's pretty much an energy report on what is happening and like what we can do at this time to navigate this whole chaos that we're in, the storm that we are in right now. Higher vibrations, I really like this, the scent of sage, so I probably use it more than I really need to. Using the assistance of archangels is better. Yes, they don't have the odor of smoke afterwards. Remember, the law of free will is is of the universe. Okay, so let me see. What have I missed? Yes, high vibrations. Help is always given to those who ask for it. Exactly. So Audrey, yeah, aspirin or paracetamol could be overdosed like anything. Yeah, as some people are like dependent on it. Like I know a few people that take aspirin and this paracetamol. Like, hey, like I don't feel as well, and I'm going to take one. And like they take it on a daily basis almost. And yeah, like the downside to it is that your immune system is like rendered inert to a certain extent. But the other big downside is like this is like from an actual, like I didn't experience this, but someone in the family did. They were like constantly on some kind of medication if they needed it or they didn't. I think it's called like hypochondria or something similar. Like you have this condition when you think that you're always having some kind of illness and you need to take medication for it. Like this is like a mental condition too. And when they actually had something happening and they had to go to the hospital, like the medication had like zero effect on her because her system, her whole body was so used to constantly being bombarded with medication that when the time has come that she actually needed that effect, it was like inert because it just, yeah, like she adapted to it completely. So even the slight overdose of Tylenol can shut down all of your internal organs. Oh my god. Oh, within a few short hours. That one has always been marked as so safe, but it is so dangerous. Yeah, and pretty much a lot of other things too in our medical culture. Yeah, uh, like I don't remember, like, yeah, they also put like heavy metals in it and all types of chemicals that are, yeah, like when they put it in the medication, they say like, oh, it's perfectly fine. And when you read information about that specific thing, like that substance, then everywhere it's like labeled as like lethal poison. So yeah, like, but if you put it in a medication, that's perfectly fine. Like that's okay, no problem. So, Allison, you can ask for help in public as well. Imagine yourself in a bubble of light that can't be penetrated by anything. I turn on my light really bright when in public and just shine it everywhere I go. Yeah, like don't just do your protection before you go to sleep or when you're meditating or when you're alone. Yeah, like you have to do that same energy work on yourself and your surroundings, the same processing, the same shielding when you're out. I know, like in a public event, when you go to the store, some people have like difficulties, like just going down to the store and experiencing the energies of other people. Yeah, like you have to do this constantly because, yeah, like we're on planet Earth and it's not a holiday vacation planet, basically. Okay, so high vibration. Yeah, that condition that I called is hypochondriac. I don't know, I'm not sure if I pronounce that correctly. So yeah, a lot of people are taking medicine like candy. Yeah, and it's so crazy, especially when you think about it from like our point of view. Like we are usually people in the awakened community and who are considering themselves spiritual, we are trying to like do things as natural as possible. And when you see like people like popping in medication like candy, it feels so strange and like what are you doing to yourself? High vibrations, yeah, you're just covering up underlying spiritual emotional symptoms with these things that have so much side effects just to end discomfort for a short term. It's imprisonment. Yeah, like I also had a case, I think it was like he was like 28 years old, like he was a guy. I didn't know him personally, but I knew of him. And for years he had like, yeah, like he had migraines and headaches. But he found out if he took like energy drinks and he took aspirin and stuff, and he was okay. Like the pain subsided, and after a few years, like the time came that he like completely like lost consciousness and collapsed in public, and like he went to, I mean, the emergency, what do you call it? The ambulance took him to the hospital, and they did a checkup and they found out that he had like terminal brain cancer and they couldn't do anything for him, and he died in a couple of days. So yeah, like that's like the pretty much the same example that, yeah, like when something is not alright in your body, maybe something hurts or you're having a condition, that's like the language of your body saying to you like, hey, like look here, like something's wrong. You should really look at this and resolve it before it gets even worse. Okay, so Water Child. Also, if anyone has anything else to share or you want to ask a question, please do so, since shortly, we're going to end the transmission. So, Water Child. Shamanite is a rare crystal from North America. The natives say that it has a warrior spirit protecting the wearer against attacks. of non-physical planes. Oh, that sounds very exciting. Let me search that on Google. Okay. Against the text of the non-physical planes, it has been very helpful to me. Yeah, I definitely need to check that out. So, high vibrations. My neighbor said she takes 17 pills with her morning coffee. I can't remember how many she takes each day. Yeah, like I also know people from the family like that. They buy each week their little sack of medication. Oh, okay, so Andy, hello Andy. An executive perpetual motion toy started up by itself a couple of hours ago and it's still going. When I would set it away, it will only go for a few minutes. Do you think it's a higher or lower vibe? Yeah, like only you can decide that, like does it feel like? But especially like maybe it's if it's in the middle of the night and it's make you scared, and it's probably not of higher vibrations. Yeah, like I also had back then, like I think like 9 years ago, when I got rid of a few parasites and they became like very desperate and they were like throwing a temper tantrum and they were like knocking things over in the room. And yeah, like I just laughed at them. You're like, really? You're getting so desperate that you're like knocking things off the table? Like, you should be really ashamed of yourself. And they just left, basically. Yeah, like if you're not in fear mode, especially if you like move out of it, maybe if you make fun of them, if you kick them in the balls energetically, they will leave. Because they are like energetic bullies. And bullies don't like to pick on people who kick them in the nuts. So yeah, like it's the same thing. As above, as below. It works the same way. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. Also, I left the link to the book that I have just published, The Teachings of Thoth, the Atlantean, in the description. It also talks about this aspect of what we can experience during the night and what you can do. It also has like specific spells for how to overcome it, specific techniques, how you can like remove these negative influences from your own life experience. So you can also like explore that if you want to. It's in the description below. And if you enjoyed it or you already read it, then please leave a review for it on Amazon or Google Play. It really helps out a lot for the book. Thank you. So Andy, love that. No, I'm not afraid. It's just weird. Yeah, like if the positive ones are doing it, then just state it like, okay, like I'm not enjoying this thing, so please don't continue. And they will stop. Because yeah, like, don't state things like how do you want to proceed further or what you want to, what form of communication is acceptable to you and what is not. Then when even your guides will try different things to test out how you react. But if you state clearly, like, okay, like I don't find this moving object thing amusing, please don't do it, then they will stop, definitely. Okay, so do you know any good books for recently awakened starseeds? Hello, Domingo. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, like the three waves of volunteer. Oh my god, like my English is off the scales. Dolores Cannon has like a lot of good books for this. Like the three waves of volunteers is like a super good starter for this. Also, ET 101. Yeah, like definitely check out this little guidebook. It's like the Kabbalion. It's like a very small notebook. It's a channeled information from the higher realms. It's like super effective and proficient, especially if you're just waking up. And but also like the three waves of volunteers from Dolores Cannon is like superb. It's a pretty long book, but yeah, like it pretty much gives you a good image of what is happening, like who you are, why you are here, like why do you have all these weird stuff in your own life. And yeah, like that's how I started out, and it really made a lot of things clear to me. So higher vibration, thank you so much for this beautiful gathering. Thank you. I'm happy we managed to do this one. I had a night off. So Water Child, look at the Book of Stones from Robert Simmons for good information. Thank you for sharing it. I got most of what I know about crystals from this meditation work with the crystals. Thank you for sharing it, Water Child. Michael, thank you so much. You guys are beautiful and wonderful. Thank you. Indeed, we all are. Okay, like definitely like check out ET 101. Like that's like a pretty damn good read. Okay, Diana Cooper's so Audrey says Diana Cooper's books about awakening angels, dragons, and unicorns is pretty damn good. Thank you for sharing that. That book is really amazing. Okay, yeah, like you can copy paste out the book addresses after I have finished the transmission. It's going to be there in the live chat. Thank you for sharing all of the books, all of your experiences, and I hope we managed to help to a certain extent because like we're going through these challenging times right now and we really need to stay grounded, focused, and protected at all times. Thank you for joining me, being here with us, being part of our beautiful community, and I hope you're going to have a beautiful and awesome full moon on the 21st and 22nd. And also an interesting Easter egg, we are in the 33rd week of this year, so that's also very interesting. And some very weird stuff have been going on this Friday, Friday the 13th. And look up the history of what happened on the first historic Friday of 13th if you're interested in these interesting little stuff. So thank you for being here, thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful week.